Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is my first female character and a male listener. A straight listen, but flipped. Usually it's a male character with a female lead, so this one is still for the boys. As with my other male listeners, I will be referring to them as Doyen instead of Yin, just to differentiate that they are male, so I can stay in the male headspace while I'm reading. For those wondering what Doyen means, it means someone who is the most respected or prominent person in a particular field. So that might give you a clue as to what this story might be about. This will be a mini-series, meaning that there will be a few parts to it, so it's not just one shot, and I hope you enjoy it. So without further ado, here is Doyen, Miruko x male listener. It's kind of funny how you and Miruko ended up together. Your fellow co-workers were surprised initially when they found out, but their surprise quickly turned to acceptance when they had a chance to think about it. It did make sense. I mean, literally anyone who would have said yes to you. You were pretty darn gorgeous with those husky traits and that mischievous cheeky charm of yours. You'd been born and blessed with a mutant type quirk. You came from a husky quirk family and thus had all the markings of a husky. The two-toned eyes, one blue and one brown, grey and white hair that you had fashioned into a wolf cut style, with cute little grey and white husky ears to top it off, not to mention the grey and white tail. Even from a very young age you had turned heads. You were quite the stunner. Looks aside, you also had personality to boot. Friendly and rambunctious, it was hard for people not to like you. You'd been a party boy for most of your life and the room would light up when you entered. On top of being the centre of the party, you were also quite the sweet talker, easily wooing anyone that took your fancy. From a young age, you had always wanted to be a hero, and your family had encouraged you to go for it, mostly to keep you out of trouble, and secondly, a way for you to burn off that energy. Being part husky meant you had energy to burn, and would often be called out to scenes where there was a chase going on. You loved the chase, parallels intended, and would often goad the one that you were pursuing, taunting them and telling them that they had made your day a little bit boring since you had caught up to them so quickly. It gave you a kick to watch the light of hope of escape die slowly in their eyes as you galloped along beside them, running them to the very end before capturing them. The only thing that wasn't very husky of you was that you preferred to work alone. It's not that you didn't want to work with others, it was more that no one else could keep up with you until she came along. You hadn't heard of Miruko before. You hadn't been told much. All you knew was there was going to be a drug bust happening and your agency had recruited some others to help out, which was fairly standard, and she had been one of the ones who had been called in. It took you 0.02 seconds to fall for her. She was your type right down to the thick thighs, but she didn't take the bait like all the other women did when you threw them a line. Instead of batting her long white eyelashes at you and falling at your feet, she had scoffed at you and called you weak for having to team up with others to get the job done. This threw you. What the heck? You hadn't been the one to call her in. Why were you suddenly being attacked? But when you two worked together, it was like poetry in motion. You just seemed to be on the same wavelength. She had been different after that team up, more receptive to your advances, like she had accepted you as her equal. Fast forward to 4 years later, she had finally agreed to date you. You were still working with the same agency and she was still freelancing, but you two always seemed to be called in together to work on jobs. Almost everyone that you had worked for, along with her, knew that if you needed a power team, it was you and her together. You'd get the job done in half the time and get it done well, which led to today. "Who let this slacker in?" Miruko asked as she pushed the big double doors open of the office of the man who had requested her to help on a job. You'd been sitting in a chair in the office there, waiting for her to arrive, and smirked when she stepped in with her opening cheeky line. "Oh, well, if it isn't my sidekick. You had to clean up after me once I finished the job by myself," you teased, earning yourself a roundhouse kick from her, which you blocked with one strong arm, your bicep bulging as you tensed against her attack. Aside from your arm tensing, you didn't move, keeping your body rock solid. "Save it, pup. You're going to eat my dust today," she replied with a mischievous grin after her attack. "Easy there, Feisty," you said lowly. You really wanted to add in there a sexually charged comment about eating something else of hers, but decided against it when you suddenly felt the awkwardness radiating off the guy who had called you in. He had stood up as Miruko had entered the room, intending to greet her earnestly, but had quickly fallen silent when she had entered with such a pointed line. He had watched your interaction, and now wasn't too sure if you two were on good terms or not. That kick had looked pretty darn hard. That didn't look like it had been a friendly kick. "Sir," you said to him, to get his attention and also to address your and Miruko's relationship. "We are dating. Everything's fine. Please rest assured that this is a normal interaction. She finds me so attractive, she just can't keep her hands off me." That last line earned you a sharp punch to your left arm as Miruko lashed out at you, and you gave a short "ow" in response. "Dick," she whispered to you, which made you chuckle. I see, the man said hesitantly. Well, in any case, thank you kindly for coming out today, as I have a fairly important job for you to attend to for me. Of course, you said with a charming smile, gesturing for Miruko to sit in the chair next to yours as you retook your seat. I don't sit. Sitting's for wimps, Miruko snapped at you, crossing her arms across her chest and smirking. I'd choose to stand too if I had thighs like yours, you whispered out of the side of your mouth to her. At least stand close enough for me to cop a feel. Again, you got a smack up the side of your head, and she cleared her throat to talk to the men. What job is it? She asked directly. Well, we have information on the whereabouts of the Cyberables, he said, and you stiffened slightly. The man didn't notice, but your girlfriend was very attentive to your body language and noticed the hackles on the back of your neck stand up on end a little. Plus you gripped the armrest with your left hand and your jaw muscles flexed, and that was all aside from the sudden black aura that you started emitting. The man continued. We need to stop them before they move their weapons. We've been told that they are going to make a deal with the League at the end of this week, so we need to take them down before then and seize their goods, then try and make contact with the League ourselves and lure them into a trap, pretending to be members of the Cyberables. Do you have people who would fit the bill? You asked the man stiffly. Miruko watched you from the corner of her eye. Yes, we do, the man said. I have a team of highly trained experts who can make the switch. So you've got huskies in your team? That's rare. You mused, still seeming overly tense. Miruko was still eyeing you and could see that you were quite agitated, but you were keeping it under wraps pretty well. Huskies? The man asked. No, we don't, but our experts... With all due respect, sir, you won't be getting anywhere if you don't have huskies as the only members of your team, you said pointedly. Or why, what makes you say that? The man asked curiously. Have you seen the members of the Cyberables? They're all huskies, Siberian huskies, you stated. Miruko was silently putting all the information together that you had just mentioned and had a fair clue now as to what was going on here, but kept quiet with the intent of asking you about it later. For now, she was just going to observe you. Oh, well, I was not aware of this. Sure, we have pictures of some of the members and they are all husky mutant quirk wielders, as you say, but surely all members are not of husky origin, he asked. You sighed shortly and stood up. Apologies, sir. We won't be doing this mission, as you are underprepared and don't know your target well. I won't be putting myself nor my girlfriend at risk here, you said firmly, pushing your balled-up fists into your pockets. Who says you can speak for me? Miruko suddenly piped up from a little behind and beside you. You turned your head slightly and gave her a look from your light blue eye. She had never seen you super serious before, so the look kind of gave her goosebumps. You were very unimpressed with what she had just said. It started strong. Hopefully that's got you in and curious enough to see what happens next week. I'll come back with a part 2. I'll see you then. Until then, if you're following the Gains series, I'll see you tomorrow for the next chapter of Gains.